Recording is on.
Recording is on. Good. Hello, Chris. I just started recording the call, so just to let you know.
Perfect. Every time people enter, they hear that too.
No, I think there can only be one recording at the time. Think so. I don't know. Maybe someone is recording it.
Yeah. There's like a thing in the top right that says recording.
Yeah, that's me.
Hey guys.
Hey.
How's it going?
So
What up?
Hola, Ingamar. I can see the PeerPad document again. So if anyone can share the agenda,
So I was gonna ask, just in general, like PeerPad, like what the deal is. Like what does it look like if PeerPad works?
Imagine PeerPad working.
Yeah, so I think what is going on is I think it syncs very slowly, and so like I just loaded it and it's blank too. But let me check.
Unless there was a troll.
I tried to add things even.
And that should work. Like if you add it, it should save, and then everybody should be able to see it if it works, which it doesn't seem to work very well. Yeah.
So when it doesn't work, is that it not working in general, or is that like it not working for the user, do you think?
I suspect it doesn't sync very fast amongst like what I think it's not that it doesn't work. I think it's like, well, I mean, it essentially doesn't work, but I think it's really slow. Like if you leave it open long enough, I think it will populate.
Right.
But it could take a while. And it's not populating on this computer for me, so I don't have the agenda. But basically the agenda is like, the only things that I put in there were Omen updates, and then the second thing was product priorities, budgeting, and compensation, just kind of like addressing that stuff.
Yeah, I thought I'd written just like mix update, and then also DX swap 2.0 post was interesting and maybe worth discussing. And then yeah, just wanted to talk about kind of that the comp guidelines. Yeah, I think priorities and goals kind of in that organizational structure thread. But I think it makes sense to start with the Omen and that stuff first. So I don't know, Gusto or someone want to?
Yeah, about DX swap.
Well, I guess never mind. We should do like Omen stuff first. I guess like, is there someone to give an update on where things are at with Omen?
Yeah. So yesterday we hope to finalize the code base, which means for the first release, it will not. There will be no changes. Only if we find critical issues. So we started testing yesterday. I hope someone did test it. At least I did. It looks right now that the version which was released yesterday can be the final version, which means now someone can propose the version to the DXdao. One big change is that Omen is now actually owned by the DXdao. So which means to make sure that Omen will be live, a proposal will be needed, which is like setting the IPFS hash as a resolver for omen.eth. Right, and that's basically it. From my side, like in terms of where Omen will go, like the version right now is just like I wouldn't call it MVP, but it's like the first step. Omen has a long way to go, which means like in terms of improving user experience, including revenue models, which are like not hurting user experiences, is something I have in mind, and this is something I will write about in DAO Talk. So preparing some kind of looking into the next 6 months for Omen, which will mean new designs, which I already prepared, and new developers are actually like starting to work on that, which is absolutely amazing to see. And it will include like ways how we could make money with Omen very soon, and actually like pretty easy. And yeah, that's basically what's going to be next. Basically some kind of a roadmap. I wouldn't call it roadmap because I would rather call it like vision and like task list for Omen, and that's it. Oh, and like one important change is like we try to make the first version like as secure as possible for the users, and with that we wanted to only allow binary markets. And now that we consider like it is actually not that horrible to include category markets if we actually signal the user exactly where the risks are. And one hope for us is that people actually like read about why it can be risky, and it will probably be risky if you don't know what you do. And so this is a very important change. Omen, the first version, which will hopefully go live at some point when the proposal is going to be made, will have categorical markets, will allow 8 outcomes max. And we try to make sure that people know the risk by including an FAQ and a document which tries to describe what is clearly an invalid market and what is not an invalid market. And with that, we hope that we will protect liquidity providers and traders of outcome tokens. Any questions?
Yeah, on that point, Geronimo, I wrote in the Omen chat, I think, is Sky here. We don't have that many like decent categorical markets to start anyway, so it's good to have as an option. But like, if you think about it, if you just have like, will Trump win is one binary, will Biden win is one binary, and then categorical would be like, who will win president, Trump, Biden, or other, right? So in one case, a liquidity provider has to manage like 2 separate binaries, which binaries are apparently easier. But then what if there were like 8 different ones? 8 binaries is probably harder than like 8 outcome categorical. So I don't actually know which one's like harder for a liquidity manager, a provider, but because he's got to do transactions on all of them, right? And it's like, how many transactions do you have to do to manage that liquidity if something goes to like 100%, right? So he has to like quickly exit 7 markets instead of like just exiting 1 or something. I don't know. But if anyone has any more ideas for categorical ones, we can add them too.
Yeah. Like the more outcomes, the more expensive the transaction will be. That's definitely true. Like one big argument where I see categorical markets could maybe be like will have more trading volume is because you have like the liquidity in all in once, right? If you have binary markets, you kind of split the liquidity into like buckets. So having one market with most of the liquidity will probably be a rise at some point. Like I expect a presidential categorical market will be the main trading venue.
Yeah, does that mean that the presidential one, you think it's better to like not have the binary ones and just have the categorical one, or let the market decide?
I think the market will decide. So
yeah.
The funny thing is like Gnosis is actually preparing a big rewards program for liquidity providers, which they will make sure that they will just tackle binary markets. And it seems like Claros is signaling that they want to tackle categorical markets. So we're actually like trying to like experiment with both types and see, like our goal is actually to create a liquidity provider community, or just like an Omen community, which knows exactly how the system works, which know exactly where the risks are. And even like the cool thing with Omen is with 3-box integration is that we even have like users who can make sure to actually signal what markets will probably be invalid, because someone is like trying to create a scammy market with some numbers which make the market invalid. Some like different resolution dates, like having a resolution date for the presidential election like 1 week before doesn't make any sense because you don't know the outcome of it. And the community can like protect the product to like scan of invalid markets, and yeah, that's the goal.
Gotcha.
Cool. And so like what should the community be trying to do over the next like week or two to push things forward? I know you mentioned that someone obviously will need to come up with a proposal to actually direct it to the IPFS hash, but in terms of, I guess you said testing would be helpful. And then I've noticed there's been some kind of discussion on the Keybase around like the fee structure and how it, you know, at Sky and how it appears to the liquidity provider. So I liked your framing kind of for, this is the first version of Omen, it's going to go live, it's going to build things, and then there's a second something that's 6 months, you know, where it's going to be in 6 months. Not using the word roadmap, but I think we should come up with a fun word to describe something similar in that way. But I guess like pushing that one kind of to the side. What are kind of in this first version the things that the community should be focused on and working and developing besides just getting word out there?
Yeah, like very, very short-term focus. We need testers. We need we need to test the product. It's on dxtest.eth.link. Any issue should be go to, I will just post a link. But there's like far more the community can do. Thinking about awesome questions, awesome markets is very important. Thinking, yeah.
Can we like run, like should we I'm not saying like DXdao or whatever, but I'm just saying like would it be like, do you think like an incentive to like participate, or like doing some like polling, like paying people to kind of like do you think that could potentially work? Because yeah, like, you know, the people who are already kind of participating in the community, I expect to like continue to participate, but like how do we kind of like keep growing the pie and kind of like getting more robust community feedback about what this thing should look like? And does that sound like but that's, yeah, maybe we could just talk offline about, you know, community incentives like for participation, because there was like a sticker contest that was run, and there was some really good content, some okay content, but it was just like nice to like people want to do things, like they want to help out, right? Like they're already sitting on bags, and like I guess if we could, fine tune what that looks like, it could be cool.
Yeah. Like we can address like right now the only thing the dev side of is doing is like making sure there are like packages other devs can work on. That's fine. We are trying to reward liquidity providers from like with Gnosis and Kleros, and like I think we should do that too at some point, like thinking about some nice challenge for liquidity providers. But we can also like focus on our traders because they are also important. Like why not do a challenge for like some like the best trader based on profits will get some rewards over like 30 days period, and we would like with that we have some kind of score and like
something like that. Something like that sounds
like we can do that, so someone can like think about it, write it down, get it ratified, and then we're like onto it. We need to like address, we can do a lot. So we address liquidity providers from Gnosis and Kleros. We can address the traders, and we could also address cool people doing not marketing but like educational materials like writing. So we could do like a challenge too with media articles, video tutorials.
That's actually what I was going to suggest next. Is like it would be really nice, and maybe this is like somewhere kind of like on this list of things to talk about today. But it would be really nice to just like nominate someone to just do like weekly updates on all of the happenings in DXdao, and kind of just pushing that out, because it's really like from a BD and like marketing perspective, it's good to keep pushing out content. When we have new people coming in, it's like coming to Telegram and you just like have this pinned post, but it's nice like when there's like fresh, like where we can like point to something like, like this is all that, this is what's happened, in the past week. That would just be like sick. Like Kyber does like a Kyber ecosystem update really infrequently, but they're super fucking long, right? And maybe that's something good to think about.
Right. I don't think we utilize the Twitter enough. Like if we have updates or like if we want feedback, like I'll tweet it.
Well, even more so, like doing like dev FAQs, like AMA with Augusto and Thomas, kind of like even shit like that, like it just I think it makes people feel more connected, kind of thing,
Yeah, I guess it kind of does. I guess as Corker said at the beginning about thinking about the first version of Omen that's like getting out into the mainnet and how that's like a huge achievement, and then thinking about what's coming for the next version 6 months. And I think obviously there's some dev side changes, but I think what you're kind of hinting at is also the kind of business and marketing changes that need to come with that. And I think those are not just like a one, let's think of something now. It's more of like a sustained campaign. I do think there is, perhaps it's getting to later too, but I think it is important to kind of maintain focus at what is kind of most beneficial for the DXdao right now, as opposed to like what it should be doing in like 1 month or 2 months time. And I think like right now we're kind of, Omen's kind of this point where it's almost ready for prime time, but still needs some kind of other, it just needs time, I think, with that. Anyway, I'm kind of mindful of time, so I don't know if there's anything else on Omen. I don't know, Ingemar, if you wanted to say anything about kind of like if there's any marketing thing that we should be aware of, or anything kind of from your side.
I think that like Omen should certainly, like the Omen Twitter, like it would be so meta if the Omen Twitter like had its own polls, because that's what the product is about, and like that'd be a cool way for people to like interact with it, but without like investing in crypto. So
Great idea.
I did like a play one on my Twitter, and it got like 80 votes. So I think if we had more creative like possible polls to put on the Omen, like about the product or about DXdao, things like that.
I mean, what about the markets that are on there? What if the Twitter feed was just like constantly shuffling whatever market questions were on there? And so then people would like follow Omen to, poll, but they really wanted to bet they could go through.
Right. I think, I don't know if Corcus can confirm this, but I think anybody can like tweet like the actual markets, or only the people who buy and sell in it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and one important thing, like Chris signaled that there should be like more like insiders should come out and explain what's going on. That's definitely something we should spend some time once it's getting calmer. But it's very important that there's no company, there's no centralized point. There are like full-time devs, but it's important that we signal strongly that we need help. We need help with challenges. Someone needs to think about challenges. Someone needs to take leadership about them, and not waiting for some dev. Devs are actually bad in doing that. Like Jean did really good. Did a really good job with the Misa challenge, like defining it. Someone needs to take leadership of that task. Otherwise, we could get hurt. And it's just a missed opportunity. Sky is a very good example. He took leadership in making the spreadsheet, finding the best binary markets. We need more of those people, and we need more of skin in the game people who do the task. And then it's not for free. Like, people should get rewards for that. Not rewards. Like, they should get compensated by any. Like, we have ETH, we have DXD, we have Rep. Guys, let's do it.
Yeah, we still. I think we want to create incentives for either people in the DXdao community too, or it can be outsiders. But it's better if people internally do it, but put these markets onto Omen. And so if you put one of these markets onto Omen and then it has some success, you get a reward to your wallet. And you can do it anonymously. We just need people to put these markets. I guess we need to create that incentive program, right? Make it very clear.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Just cognizant of times, I think what Corcus said is very, very important, but I think it gets to what we'll talk about in a little bit later. I guess on the Mesa front, is there any update or kind of things to talk about there?
Is Ken on the call? Yeah, I think the big thing with Mesa is I believe it's next week. EMG is running their sale on Mesa.
And it's also
I saw that around.
There's like an analytics page, and we can't even know now the trading volume. I think it's spiked up for whatever reason. I know that Yuri, DXdao member, is doing Russian relationship work and trying to get people trading Ukrainian stablecoin. So there's some work, but it still seems like that the challenge. I think it doesn't look promising.
It's really far off. I mean, just to give you a sense, what is it? It's $20 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like there's a lot of fragmentation in DEXs right now. There's a million different places you could go, and it's just very, very competitive. And I don't think we should cry too much over it, because it's not a big deal. And that's just that's a really useful lesson, right? just for us generally, that it's sometimes really important to like start thinking about like where the baseball is going as opposed to like where it's already been, kind of thing, right? Because you know, a lot of other like DEX products are just much more disorganized. You know, they've been working together for a hot minute. So, just my 2 cents.
I agree. For the record, though, it's a Wayne Gretzky quote about where the puck is going to be.
Well, you know, I never
baseball. I wish we had baseball right now.
I never played hockey, you know, so I can't speak to that.
But by the way, there are some news about.
I think it's a good point. It's like, where's the market, right? No.
There's a proposal on, or not a proposal, just like a idea from Protofire about like improving DXweb to be some kind of aggregators of aggregators. And like the first integration they would like to do, of course, is the Gnosis protocol. And like my personal view on this is that if the integration actually delivers better prices, or at least the same prices as Uniswap or Balancer can provide, then the Gnosis protocol integration has a chance to be very an important
I agree.
function, because it's like a much more safe trade for the user because of the ring trade batch transaction stuff. So what do you guys think about the proposal and the idea?
Hey, Geronimo, if my understanding though was that like because of the 5-minute batches, like you can't put that together with the aggregators of single block dexes.
Yeah.
You can
So
combine the two, right?
the way I would imagine is it's like the same way you go to Uniswap and you like define your, I want to sell ETH to something. If the Gnosis protocol has a better price, then we could recommend them like, hey, do you want a better price? But you need to wait 9 minutes. But it's the good thing about that is like we can show them like with a 90% guarantee that they will get the price and maybe even a better price. But they just need to like wait those 9 minutes.
I mean, the whole idea behind like an aggregator of aggregators is very, very is really sexy. It's just I don't know what I don't know what the proposal like looks like in a formal sense, and I think it's also too really important that now that we are kind of like getting our legs under ourselves a little bit, that we start thinking about driving value to token holders and like being like explicit about how that happens. Because like a meme that's kind of like percolating right now is kind of like, you know, that, you know, like the DXdao is just like for, you know, for charity, right? Like obviously these people are like, obviously these people are trolls, right? But I'm just saying that like these are things, like these are just like things that we have to confront and kind of like address so that like, you know, everybody feels good and wants to continue to keep participating, because that's like, you know, I think that's really important. It's just community participation is like the surest way to kind of like moon the fuck out of this this whole thing. So
yeah, I mean, I think we'll get there, but I do think the Gnosis could be another like gigantic liquidity protocol in DeFi. Like I think if you look right now, you've got like the Kyber, you know, world, you've got the 0x world, you've got the Uniswap and a balancer world. And I think I'm not, you know, I just need to think about doing the aggregator to aggregator. I read the post. I think it's kind of, it's interesting. I'm not sure exactly what the market specifically would be, like what the traders and what the type of trades would be that would find that. But I just think of it being in like a blue ocean, you know, open market area. I think that's a good area to explore. I also think it's a good idea to tie or to build some symbiotic relationship with Gnosis, who would probably be, in more supporting of this. I think the question for me is like how it would compete with other DXdao products, specifically the DX Swap 1.0 that was kind of talked about, which is, I guess, a fork of Uniswap 2.0. Because I think when you talk about some of the incentive schemes that Chris is talking about in terms of DXD holders, like you can't get them to put their liquidity everywhere. So I think that there will be like some, let's make sure that there aren't like competing products to what the DXdao has. But I think this one's a really interesting one to explore further.
Right. I agree with that. And just good points on, the lessons learned and the deck space. And certainly it's crowded, but divergent paths are coming up. Like next week with our initial DEX offering, it could be a huge thing. Like it can literally take one day to gain mind share and a specific niche use case. And as we see token holders incentivized to kind of liquidity mine or farm. So I think next week this all will sense whether Mesa and Gnosis protocol found its footing in a distribution mechanism, and so just maybe a bit of optimism there. I'm really curious to see how this sale. It seems like it's picking up a lot of steam in terms of interest. There will be people driven to the venue next week for this, so I'm really curious to see how it plays out.
Yeah, and also back to the idea proposed by Protofire. I don't like the fact that we basically iterate on Uniswap's front end, which will then be with the integration of Gnosis protocol. Like we will be something different. It will not be just a shitty fork of Uniswap. The fork itself is already a huge difference because the DXdao will govern the fees and can even gift control of pools to other teams. But I think we can go much further, and the fact that we use the Gnosis proxy kit will make sure we can have the best user experience. And at the end of the day, this feature, I see it personally as a protection for the user. If Gnosis protocol can provide a better price, it is the better deal. I did a few trades on Gnosis protocol, and most of the times I got a better price than I was quoted on, which is a weird thing. It's not a normal thing. And that is a signal that the Gnosis protocol is a fair protocol where those kind of rewards actually go to the people who use it, and not front runners or greedy people, greedy traders.
Yeah. And just on that, I think going back to Mesa and what could be another opportunity that might not happen right now or could happen with the initial DEX offering, I think auctions are going to be increasingly huge in the space. I know Set had just rebalanced their 60-41 this week, and we'd had the conversation with them. So that could be an area that kind of grows in the future. Just in terms of, I guess, Augusto, is there any other dev updates? I saw you had a post, I think, on the weekly meeting, just kind of closing out the dev side of things. And then we could go into the work comp guidelines.
Yeah, sure. No, there hasn't been any major development, just minor release of OpenRace decentralized application. We are splitting the OpenRace application from the landing page. So actually, there is a proposal already created to redirect DXtrust.eth that is going to show only the OpenRace application. And we are going to be using DXdao.eth for the landing page, FAQ, code base, where everything is going to be related. That is going to be the index and the entrance for the DXdao. So we are starting splitting the products. And And then there has been some work that I already started on DXswap fork, where hopefully we are going to have next week deployment on Koban with a DXC token pool that can be governed by DXdao that we have deployed in Koban. But yeah, nothing too big there. Just minor releases, and we are organizing and splitting the application on the landing page.
Also, do you expect a DXswap Coven deployment and playground like on DX test or something soon?
Yeah. Right now, I'm working on that right now. I'm just trying to figure it out how to make how to create the pools. That is what right now I'm testing. We had a developed version on the repository that is on level K on the develop branch. Has minimal changes that only, for example, change the color, the icons, making sure that it's related with DXdao. Yeah, hopefully we are going to have it soon. I'm going to be sharing my updates on the development channel on Keybase, so you can follow up there. And we are going to have more news on the next weekly dev call on Tuesday.
And just to be clear on the DXswap, kind of, I guess, the original proposed DXswap, which is the fork of Uniswap v2, the value proposition there is that DXdao will control the fees, both on a per market basis and also the protocol fee. I think I'll make a comment on DAO Talk. I think that's something that Protofire missed in their new post. So, but just to be clear on that.
Yeah, the aim of DXswap is
so for both of them?
Both of them, yeah. Yeah. Also, we have already a pull request created to have a scheme on Alchemy that is going to be managing the fees. So hopefully, when it's first deployed, I imagine that DXdao will send DXD to create a pool to generate liquidity in a pool. Maybe improve the fees there against the fees in Uniswap. But the main idea here on the technical level is to have a fork with minimal changes with major impact. That is going to be the fee management. So we want to make as less changes as we want, also to keep updated of what Uniswap is releasing on their source code and make sure that we can follow up there any changes in their source code that they are going to apply.
Cool. And then wanted to kind of switch the conversation. I guess we have some time here, kind of talking about meta philosophically, how DXdao kind of moves things forward and pushes initiatives, sets priorities, goals, and kind of, and then how rep holders kind of hold them accountable, or how do we signal these different things? And I think it's a long conversation. We're obviously not going to start today. I think the worker compensation guidelines are probably like the best example of something that like needs to be created by the community, that kind of speaks for the community, and how do we get signal and how do we agree on different things. So and it's kind of gone along pretty far into the process. So Augusto, I don't know if you want to talk about kind of where things are at with that and what that means kind of going forward.
Sure. Well, first, I wanna thank I think that most of the people here already took a look at the compensation guidelines. The idea here is to have a flexible framework that can allow the workers to estimate like a base compensation that they are going to receive for their work. But it's not going to set any strict rules. If you as a worker, you consider or you think that yourself you should receive a different and a higher compensation than the one that you have estimated, we also want to provide the tools for the workers to present their case. And of course, the DXdao later are going to decide if the higher compensation is eligible for the worker, they will receive it. More, even more, this is very important for the DXdao on the future to estimate the budget on how much are we going to be spending in development as an organization. Where I mean, this is an organization that is focused on decentralized finance, right? So we are going to be developing new products, hopefully in making investments, right, in different decentralized finance protocols. So this is like, I think, where the technical side of the budget is going to be covered, or how much are we going to be spending in the development of products, how many people is going to be working it, and also important, I think we are going to need a constant flow of reputation, of technical and financial reputation. So this means that we are going to have qualified rep holders verified by the community and by their work and input, that are going to give us good technical and financial input, right? Technical input of this is a good application, this is a good protocol that is being developed. Maybe it makes sense to collaborate here or to create something from it. And the financial input, where they are going to see it from the financial point of view, right? Like what can we earn financially? How long is this? Are we going to receive an investment? Or why this is going to have a good impact on the decentralized finance ecosystem? So this will cover the technical mint of reputation, right? Where the DXdao workers are going to be rewarded with the financial and reputation compensation. There has been a lot of input received on the proposal, and I made a lot of changes based on the input received. I'm feeling very positive that it's going to be passed and accepted by the majority of the community. Of course, as everything, there is individuals and organizations that might be against it, but I think we are in a very good spot of having the first guidelines for this year, right? For 2020, where we are going to have the next 6 months being able to experiment with these guidelines, and hopefully next year we are going to come out with a longer term plan.
And I think from what I've seen, there's been pretty good feedback and participation from other developers in the community, and obviously big thanks to Augusto for like heading this effort up. But I think we probably need more feedback or visibility. Is this these guidelines make provisions for how to issue rep, like Augusto was just talking, and also potentially DXD. And it would be great to have, just general community members weigh in on, how much rep is a good amount. Is there evaluation on rep? What is it? Should we issue DXD? I think it's kind of obvious that people want it into vesting contracts, if at all. And then, and also, how do we price DXD? Like, these are just kind of 4 logistical things that need to be put into that are in the guidelines and kind of need to be validated, in my mind, by the greater community for this to pass kind of a bigger vote.
Yeah, and I also think like the DAO ratified the first some kind of guidebook for members, which I see as a manifesto. I think the guidelines for worker compensation, I see that as a similar thing, which should always be iterated on why we actually use the guidelines and why we use the manifesto. And I think they should be on DXdao.eth, so everyone which means like it's ratified by the DAO and it's on the main website. And I think it's a good start, but it will probably have a lot of iterations while we actually have new developers onboarding. We are also trying because we have a lot of stuff for Omen version 2 already. We are trying to go a different path, which is onboarding developers into projects with small packages, and it seems like it's pretty nice because we're also trying to estimate the compensation amount with rep, and this could be also just the first stepping stone for devs going completely full time into the DXdao. But it seems like it looks promising. Ethereal is starting working on stuff. Someone from Diok signaled interest. Caden is also working, started to work on an Omen package. So it's like, we just hope that they will stick around and continue working on stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think we do need more feedback from like other community members who like may not be developers. I'm sorry if there's background noise. And yeah, I'd be willing to like try these guidelines. Just, like, as long as we make it known that this is sort of like a trial period, we're gonna try these guidelines for 3 to 6 months, see how effective it is, go by that, and then like revisit.
Yeah, they can obviously be iterated on and improved if people realize some things.
Do you guys think we should have a ratified consensus on chain about the guidelines?
Yes. I think, I mean, really, what's it called? Thomas, like you kind of remember like when like Rune put out these like principles of MakerDAO and kind of like validated on chain, even with like a small amount. And at the time I thought it was like, oh, this is like such a facade, right? But now, like, I can see utility in kind of just like using essentially like the governance mechanic that we have like in place to like validate anything when we're going to like touch money or treasury kind of thing. Like, I definitely think it should be community supported.
I want to say like the reasons for yes would be so that there's like actual like a demonstrated consensus on it, because like consensus on chain is a lot different from likes and no disagreements on a forum post. And I would say like the reasons for no would be like, I guess, like the implication that it becomes more like rules and law, which in my opinion goes against like the autonomy ethos of decentralization and DAOs. So like I see reasons for yes and no.
Yeah, I don't know what the meme is, but I keep thinking of like, it's like what your mother tells you, like you are what you eat. And so I think like with the DXdao, like it will be what it it like who it hires kind of. And the way you talk about who you're going to issue DXD, who you're going to issue rep to. So I think these kind of guidelines on where things will go, ultimately like end up forming what the DXdao becomes. I think it's important to kind of be mindful of that. I guess it's helpful, I think, going through this process, because I think this isn't the only one. Obviously, we've kind of started running to this when you're thinking about the budget. So I guess, Augusto, now that you've almost gone through this process, maybe the on-chain confirmation comes, but what kind of suggestions would you give to other proposals or other kind of initiatives that would be started in terms of like gathering feedback from the community, like, iterating, maybe like creating this more into like a formal process? I think one of the things important is, yes, when you like vote on something on chain, then it's like ratified by the community. But like the question is like, well, who gets to decide what they vote on, right? What's included in that like document? And that can be, just as important as, actually voting on it. So, figuring out how you get signal from the community building up to that, and then post proposal, like what are the checkpoints that the community needs to have going forward for these type of initiatives?
Yeah, one of the goals that I wanted to achieve here is that first, since this is the first iteration on a very important issue, we don't. I didn't want to set any strict rules on what is going to happen. Right. This is why we call it guidelines in the beginning. And at the first, the document had the word rules. The guy suggested maybe you should remove the word rulings, because we don't want to have any strict rules, even more on the first iteration. and it's very important who is authoring, like who is auditing for example, the document. I created a document where I enabled the comments, and always engage. Make sure that the person or the individual or the organization who is auditing and moving forward, for example, a proposal like this, to engage the people who is commenting, who is giving their input. Don't disregard it. Always engage back with the question. Try to gain their approval, right? So this is very important. Try to engage to gain the approval of the community, and don't set any strict rules, even more for the first iteration, right? Then from there we can build up like a longer and more extensive process with maybe some strict rules of this is the maximum that is going to be paid. This is what is going to be issued. We are not going to be making payments on this currency. So this we are going to learn it through experimentation, right? We are going to have the working proposals are going to be happening in the next 6 months. We are going to learn from them, see what's going to be happening, see what's making the workers happy and what's making the rep holders happy, and try to reach an agreement.
Yeah, and I also think like with a few people working full time with bounty packages for products, with hopefully Mix coming back soon, there is definitely already some kind of roadmap, like some kind of future look through in terms of like financials. So I think we're in a good spot to see in the next weeks where we will have like a burn rate. So I think you can only make predictions about the financials if you actually have some kind of like product line and road task lists for those products with developers working on it. I think we're strongly getting there. But I think right now the focus is to get new developers in and increase workers in general. I think we should. I mean, the devs focus on dev. I think everyone else should focus on everything else. Ingama is our writer and Biz marketing guy. And I think there are a lot of seats to fill for a lot of stuff.
Does it also make sense to work towards getting consensus on chain about what the product priorities are? Because I think the compensation guidelines are an important piece, but I think in order to actually like move forward as a DAO, I think we should have some clarity on like what the product priorities are. And I think thus far it's sort of been put forth, as like what's been launched and already kind of developed and had some momentum, but like. Yeah, I mean, curious what people's thoughts are around that.
Yeah, so I think for Omen, we're in a actually pretty good spot to actually like experiment with someone is trying to create a task list, and then the community can actually like not be fans, but rather like, oh, I think that is shit. I think we should change that task into that task, and then actually like let members speak up and like let the members define where this thing should go. I think it is good that someone's like trying to propose a vision, a path, but it should be with all members inclusion. So it's like starting a talk. It's similar to Protofy, like coming up with idea, coming up with designs, coming up with tasks, and then everyone can chime in and actually like, we shouldn't start working on compound integration, but rather on something else because, and then and then it's the question.
Protofire.
What?
I was just gonna say Protofire is a good example because like that was a great proposal, but like how do you like like they had already had like tons of knowledge and information to like bring that forth to the DX like DAO. So I guess the question is like, if someone were to like put the work into creating an initial feedback, like what do they know? Like what should they work towards, and what type of proposals, you know, should people be trying to craft around? And I guess that's the priorities that maybe John's talking about. And then again, how do you get that on chain or just by going to the community? I think it's really just about like constant signaling.
Yeah. And we don't have any signaling tool, right? Like,
well, PeerPad works sometimes.
Right. I mean, or just even key-based thumbs up.
I mean, that's not quite true. I mean, yeah, I think DAO Talk is our signaling tool, and Keybase is our signaling tool. We could probably have better signaling tools.
Yeah. So if you guys want, I don't know if you remember the Abridged guy that came, but they have this Telegram signal bot. So if everyone from DXdao, if this community wanted to create a Telegram group, you can like simply propose really simple ideas, and people can vote with just clicking yes or no, like very quickly. It's a cool thing. It might be a cool thing to experiment with, because if we have no way to signal, then this is at least some way to signal. I could probably get that set up pretty easily. But you have to join a Telegram group.
It may also be interesting if you could incorporate actual reputation into the signaling, right? Because there's a big difference between just somebody saying something on Telegram and like what the actual rep holder vote will be.
So that can be done. There might be a cost to building that. I can ask what that cost is and then propose it. It's probably not that much. Like a little bit.
Corvus, though, your bit's the solution. Does that solve all of these problems?
I personally think like to not shill Urbit. We're in an early stage, but Urbit could be the best off-chain world for us, especially because the identity is on Ethereum, and there are some plans with Telon. At least I talked with Kenny from Telon to start exploring like the DXdao moving as a whole group to Urbit, and they will make sure we have like 6 months of hosting from them, and with that we could actually develop signaling tools like extremely easy on Urbit, completely open source.
What would be the first step towards moving on Urbit? Would it be putting Keybase instead of Keybase? We would use Urbit for chat, or
yes.
Like I don't think we can just like move everything into Urbit right away. Like
no.
Dip
Definitely
a
not.
foot
Definitely
in,
not.
see if it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the first like use case? Is it?
The first use case is they basically replicating Keybase. You can define a group, and those groups can have chat rooms. They also have the ability to have like a link collection, which can be shared throughout the whole group, completely decentralized, completely sovereign. So everyone is like hosting their own data. What else? Like you can build apps on top of it, which is like controlled by anyone on their own Urbit. So we could have like a governance dashboard where we can do a lot of stuff because we actually have control. Every Urbit has their own control of their data. They could even like change the UI based on personal needs because it's all inside their Urbit. It's a long vision. I'm very skeptical that it's like it will be replace Keybase, but I think we need to start moving. We need to start moving into something which will enable us to be like much more efficient. And like right now, like Web 2, GitHub, Keybase, those tools are like, we should ditch them. Like we should make sure we actually contributing to like a proper Web3 vision, not IPFS, not hosted by some guy. It should be like sovereign. Everyone should have control of their own data. and Urbit is currently right now something we can explore, especially with help of Tilon. And like the first thing we could do is actually creating the signaling app for on top of Urbit.
I mean, my only thing that I'd just like be cautious about with kind of new initiatives like this is that there's a lot of stuff to do. Like a really important thing.
Like that's not going to help us get the budget. Like we're not going to move on to your bit. Like, no, like we don't need any.
Yeah. So I mean, we need to articulate what the value proposition is to token holders with the dApps that we're building. That's like the most important thing in my mind. The second most important thing is figuring out how to pay people, and that's like that involve like and the second point, like once we figure out number one, number two is like is a huge undertaking in and of itself, because like it's so like getting it right is going to be like hard, and it's going to require like feedback, and like the community is going to push back on certain things, and people who are, you know, like labor is going to push back on certain things, like and it's all going to be kind of like messy. But like right now, I just truly think it's like very, very important to like communicate to DXD holders like why hold DXD in the first place, and secondly like how do you get involved as a DXD holder, whether that means like kind of you know, doing some like task on behalf of the DAO, or you know, figuring out this like mechanism where DXD token holders can participate in governance, or at least they have like some avenue to participate. A lot of the tools like for signaling, I think, kind of already exist, and we should like look to other DAOs and like how they're doing things, right? Like, so you look at Maker, Synthetics, and Compound now, and they all have governance, right? And they do governance very, very like whenever they're gonna like make like a big change or like do something like new, it's slow and like and it's very like well thought out, right? Like
that's because there's a centralized team running it.
Oh, sure, 100%.
Like it's like a completely different like ballgame, and like it's funny because like they're now covering on to this turf, and it's like gonna be tough for them. I think like this is, you know, the governance is it's figuring it out, but like this is where like DXdao like needs to shine and kind of like build strong.
Exactly.
You know, institutions that I think like it's not important for like DXD to compete against like those in terms of like communication to token holders. I think it's more important about like building the governance as like the core infrastructure, because like Comp obviously didn't like distribute out until they had built their core competency, and I think like DXdao core competency is governance.
Yeah, the thing is like those fake shit DAOs, they never had a reason to like go full blown Web3, but we actually need to do it because because a DAO is like is approving products which are somehow gray zoned. Not only that, it's also like I think I would love to see like technologies which push forward anonymous contributions. It's absolutely not possible right now. Like, have fun pushing something on GitHub without a GitHub account, without exposing your IP. Like, we are forced to move.
You can do it. It's really hard, but you can do it. You definitely can do it.
Right. But like humans are lazy, and then some VPN connection is not. Yeah. And like the only thing I say, like I think we not only need to focus on products and like making DXD valuable, we need to make sure that we are not getting fucked on our own. Like we need to improve governance on our own. We need to use technologies which improve everything on our own. And the reason why no one ever did something like that is because they are fucking centralized. Like they don't need that. Maker is not allowing any type of proposals. They define the narrative. Synthetics, same thing. It's like all fakey. And we sadly, like not sadly, beautifully, we need to go full blown Web3.
We are past the the hour. I think in terms of time, but I think that there's I don't know, good issues to be discussing. I guess just to close up on what kind of the decentralized organizational structure conversation, or how we move things forward. I think actually what Chris said was some good things there. I think the three things we're thinking about were: one, define priorities for roadmap, and maybe come up with a new word for roadmap. Two, submit a proposal for a budget formation. I think that's going to take some work in order to come up with what the budget looks like on the 6 months or a year. And I think there probably should be a more formal budget that kind of a proposal that would outline how the whole budget process would go. And I think three is more documentation, just kind of like documentation of coaching guidelines, where they get on chain, but just figuring out how we can like document more things about kind of the governance structure, or the decentralized structure, so that people can know how things fit in. But the other thing, last thing to close, is I did see there's a post from Peter about trying to join DAO forces between Aragon, Metacartel, and DAOstack. So there's probably be some more conversation and discussions in the coming weeks, more DAO coordination. But, cool. All right. Well, I guess that's it. Anything last words?
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah. All right, guys. See ya.
All right, guys. Have a good one.
Bye, guys.
Have a good day.
Adios.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
All right.
Bye bye.